All right, we'll get started in a moment.
Peace, Dr. Ali.
Peace, ALJ, what's your age?
Okay, what's the case?
All right, we'll get started in a moment.
All right.
Peace, peace. We're going to be going over Set the Record Straight. We're going to be getting into some law indigenous information tonight. So just bear with us as we get through this, and hopefully y'all can hear me clear.
All right.
All right. Peace, peace, peace. Peace to everyone. We'll get started. Let me pull up the screen. All right. So let's get to it. So the United States of America was never a sovereign nation to begin with. It was just a business association, folks. It's the land-based states that are separate sovereign nations, and the federal United States comprises 57 states. The 50 federal states plus the federal territories and possessions, which are counted as states of the Union, which is supposed to operate exclusively in the international jurisdiction of the sea. Continental United States equals the 50 separate nation states operating as a nation on the land jurisdiction. The federal United States equals 50 incorporated franchises of the United States of America, Inc., operating the international jurisdiction of the sea, plus 7 nation states, Guam, Puerto Rico, etc., operating as the United States of America minor, for a total of 57 states. In 1953, Kitchen versus Still, 112 F Supply 383, a citizen of the United States is a citizen of the federal government. All right. 1967, also. All right. June, Congressional Records, June 13th, 1967, page 15,641 to 15,646. A citizen of the United States is a civically dead entity. Now, this is coming from the Congressional Records, June 13th, 1967. A citizen of the United States is a civically dead entity, hence civilis mortuus, operating as a co-trustee and a co-beneficiary of the PCT and the private construction or constructive CETQ Trust of the United States, Inc., under the Article what? 14th Amendment, under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the United States of America and United States, Inc. in Section 4. This neatly explains once and for all what a citizen of the United States is in federal parlance, as opposed to popular speech, and underlines the need for Americans to forthrightly, all right, expatriate from any such citizenship. All right. Now, and instead declare their allegiance to the land of their nativity. For example, here it says California, Nevada, or Ohio. What we say is that no need to expatriate because number one, you are not a citizen of the United States to begin with. You've been brought into that belief based on the privileges in which that they have given you. But your unalienable rights has been stripped from you. So you do not have to expatriate because you was never a citizen to begin with. The 14th Amendment was never fully ratified. All right, this has been proven time and time again. And not just that, is that the indigenous names of the land in which that you was native, as it says, nativity, where you was natively born at, would not be California per se, or Nevada or Ohio. Even though Nevada is indigenous and so is California, those are indigenous terms. And matter of fact, Ohio um, is also. So all three of these are indigenous terms from the native tribes that was dwelling within those areas. All right. However, um, let's say we do it more so after the naming of those indigenous aboriginal or aborigine Moors who was in that area. All right, like for example, instead of saying North Carolina, we would say Selagi or Ananuia, which is the name of the Cherokee who was there. Or but there was also Yamasee, there was also the Blackfeet or Blackfoot, who was known as the Haliwa, Sapani tribe, which that's why they called it the Tar Heel State to begin with. All right, so we know that a statute is not a law, and this is what they be getting us at because we be taking colorable laws such as policies, codes, rules, regulations, statutes, etc. But these are colorable. These are legal is part of legalese, but everything that's legal may not necessarily be lawful. So a statute is not a law. All right. Flournoy versus First National Bank of Shreveport, Louisiana, 197, 1063. I mean, excuse me, 1067, 3SO, second edition, 244, 248. A code is not a law. In Resouth versus Ray, 61, WN2D 261, in point of fact, in law. So a statute is not a law, a code is not a law. So what is this talking about that you've broken the law? You haven't. You have broken their statute, which a bond is attached to the statute via your birth certificate, which is everything that is happening is predicated upon the birth certificate. All right? Everything is predicated upon the birth certificate. A concurrence, all right, or joint resolution of legislation of the legislator is not a law. So when they said a House Joint Resolution 192, it's not a law. All right. The law was specifically within Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, which states that Congress had the right to mint money, which is coinage, not, all right, not fiat notes or FRNs, which are merely promissory notes or IOUs, in which that we all have adapted and concurred. All right. But this is Koenig versus Flynn, 258 New York, 292, 179, NE 705, 707, and also Ward versus State, 176 Oklahoma, 368. All right, and State X Real Todd versus Yelly, which is 7 Washington 2D 443, etc. It says this: all codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, not humans, all right, or indigenous natural persons, the creators of, in accordance with God's law. See, God's laws is natural law, meaning when you are a natural person, you are the creators, all right, in accordance with God's laws. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacks due process of law, which is based on Amendment 5 of the Constitution. Right, Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan, United States Department of Labor, 769 F 2D 1344, 1348, 1985, lack in due process in that they do or that they are void from ambiguity in this failure to specify the statutes applicable to natural persons, because there is no statutes per se for natural persons. All right? At least not the same ones for a so-called citizen who's an employee, who is a slave, otherwise depriving the same of fair notice, and their construction, by definition of terms, aptly identifies the applicability of such statutes to artificial or fictional corporate entities or person, creatures of statute. So right now you're a creature of statute, or those by contract employed as agents or representatives, departmental subdivisions, officers, and properties of the government, but not the natural person who is indigenous. Go to Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition, and look up natural person. The first word for definition is indigenous. Or an American citizen, which should be a capital C and not a lowercase c, immune for such jurisdiction of legalism. The common law is not real law, but it's better than statute, codes, rules, regulations, and ordinances. But the common law is the real law, The common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land, which the Constitution states, because the codes, rules, regulations, policies, and statutes are not the law. All right. Once again, common law is the real law. All right. It's English law coming from Roman law, which of course we know that the design of government came from out of ancient Egypt for what we call the East. All right. So government was shown and taught from out of ancient Kemet, as well as all Africa, as well as most of the things there within the East. So common law is the real law. That is part of what we refer to as natural law, because it's common sense law. Now, everybody don't have common sense any longer, so therefore, this is why they did away with common law, because it seems like common sense is or has become irrelevant, and we have become detrimental to ourselves. So therefore, common law within the so-called most of the 50 states no longer exists. However, in certain states it does. What they call commonwealth states or common law states, like North Carolina is a common law state. So the common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The codes, rules, regulations, policies, and statutes are not the law. This is Self versus Ray, 61 WN 2D 261. They are the law of government for internal regulations, not the law of man. In his separate but equal stations and natural state, a sovereign, foreign, with respect to government generally. So in your natural state as being indigenous, all right, being indigenous is your natural state. Being an aborigine more is your natural state. This is natural to you. Once you come back into knowledge of self and you have common sense law. All right. Color of law, which is statute, codes, rules, regulations, and ordinances. Color of law, the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. So color of law takes you back to without the substance. Well, that equals straw man, because it says straw man does not have substance. Strontius homo, which is the straw man, has no substance. So that means you can only have color of law, which is statute, codes, rules, regulations, and ordinances for a person who is not natural, who's an artificial person, such as Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz with the Scarecrow, who is the straw man, and the Tin Man, which is the taxpayer identification. Hence the Social Security card. So one represents the birth certificate, which is the straw man, and the other represents the Social Security card, which is the Tin Man. Employees identification. So the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. So that means this color of law is not real law, it's de facto. And is meant, as we just finished seeing, it is meant, as we just finished seeing, for laws of government for internal regulations, not the law of man. Not the law of man. All right, so this is State versus Blatcher, 185, Wisconsin, 499, 202, and D 144. This is Black's Law Dictionary, page 331. So we gave the definition because we realized that many may not be aware that there is such a thing as color of law. There would be what you are learning in any law classes today. Okay, so that's what they are learning in the law classes is color of law, statute, codes, rules, regulations, ordinances, etc. Also, many may think that Black's Law Dictionary is indicative of so-called black person because the name is Henry Campbell Black. But when you look up color of law, you will also find color of authority, color of office, and the definition of color itself, which is an apparent semblance or stimulacrum, as distinguished from that which is real. All right, so now you know why we never were colored people. In the 101s, it tells us, right, that the color means something that is stained, varnished, or dyed, which means it hides or cover over the true substance of a thing, all right, or the thing itself. So we've been covered over, we've been made to have an appearance, a mask, a fictitious appearance, or appear to look real but isn't real necessarily. It's a disguise. All of this is in the definition of color. So we know that a republic characteristics, which is known within the Constitution as the only form of government is a republican form of government. That means that was de jure government, constitutional legislator, Article 3 judges, authorized lawfully, due process of law or due process under the law, lawful money, Article 1, Section 10, as I spoke about earlier, representative government, allodial law, all right, Bill of Rights, honorable contracts, right? And the Bill of Rights is only the first 7 or 10, but none after the 10. Honorable contracts, real and actual, unlike colorable law, which is not real. Remember, it appears to be real. Color of authority, color of office, it appears to be real, but isn't. It's de facto. Constitutional law, separation of powers. And then you see it versus the democracy characteristics. And we know democracy comes from the word democracy. And democrats means ruled by demons. So here we have a republican, which means representation for the public or for the people, all right, versus democracy, which means ruled by demons. And this is a de facto government which has forced itself upon the land, murdered, maimed, killed, lynched, everything above and much more, genocides, complete practice of genocides for the last 400 years and counting, 500 and more, all right? Unconstitutional legislation, private entity barristers pretending to possess judicial authority, which is talking about the esquires, the attorneys, the so-called lawyers, bills of attainder, Federal Reserve notes counterfeit, seats of government sold to the highest bidders or bribers. And that's what they call it lobbying. Yeah, because you lobbying for favors. You would sell, these politicians sell their souls for the dollar, for the money. They take the highest bidder or the bribe, and then instill laws against the people to dwindle their liberties. You have feudal law, labor codes, adhesive contracts, fake prima facie, all right, color of law, cross jurisdiction violations, cause legislation is not supposed to be involved with the executor or the executive side, and they're not supposed to be involved with the judicial side. These are what is called checks and balances within the government, but they oftentimes have cross jurisdiction violations. Like, for example, the police. The police, upon stopping you, all right, they are doing what is known as, guess you can say, let's look at it. You have judicial, you have executive, and you have what we refer to as legislative. So when they write you a ticket, that is legislative that they're doing. But the fact that they stopped you and act as if they have jurisdiction over you, that is judicial. And then the fact is that they're executing judgment right then and there, saying that you have to come to a court hearing, and therefore they're giving you this ticket. So they are practicing all three positions of government within the stop itself, which actually the word, when you look up arrest, it means to be stopped. So a stop is an arrest. And so let's go to the state of Delaware, because it was talking about United States of America, Inc. Well, this is not a statement of good standing, because file number 0325720, incorporation date, formation date is 07/12/1933. All right. Entity name, Internal Revenue Tax and Audit Service, Inc. Entity kind, all right, corporation. Entity type, general residency, domestic, state. D, registered agent information, name, inactive agent account, address, Secretary of State, Townsend, building, city, Dover County, Kent State, Delaware. That's the DE is Delaware. Postal code 199011234, phone 302-739-3138. So the Internal Revenue and Audit Service, Inc. is incorporated in Delaware, in the northern part of the so-called United States is in Delaware, and it was just done July the 12th, 1933, which was during the time of when they struck the New Deal. So hence the Internal Revenue Tax and Accounting Service, Inc. is actually the accountants for the debt collected for the United States of America. All right, Inc. or United States. Here we have Dun & Bradstreet, Credibility Corp, D&B. And look at the House of Representatives. United States is also named as what? Office of Law Revision. Office of Law Revision Council. So, the House of Representatives, the United States, is listed on Dun and Bradstreet, which is businesses, as also traded as Office of Law Revision Council. What are they being traded? What is being traded? That the House of Representatives of the United States got to have a Brad and Dunn Street number. I'll let you think about that for a second. File number 0042817. Incorporation date. All right. 9/3/1914. Who is this? Oh, Federal Reserve Association. So the Federal Reserve Bank is under the Federal Reserve Association. And what is it? A corporation. And what it is also? A non-profit or religious organization. So the Federal Reserve is non-profit or religious, and it was also filed in Delaware. Wow. 1914, a year after Prophet Noble Ali formed the Canaanite temple with the help of Solomon, etc. Residency, domestic. Status, void. So their status has been void, but yet the Federal Reserve Association still functions to print the money for the Secretary of Treasury, but it is a nonprofit or religious organization. Religious organization, isn't that something? All right, so for the Internal Revenue Tax and Audit Service, Inc., that we just talked about, is an entity that is general, residency domestic, all right? State was in Delaware. Void since April the 1st, 1936. The Social Security Corp, Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, Inc. The incorporated date was 11/13/1989. File number 2213135. Entity kind, corporation. Entity type, general. Residency, domestic. All right. State, Delaware. So notice that all of these so-called agencies, governmental agencies, which are nothing more than corporations or businesses, as they stated, whether it's in non-profit or a corporation or religious, all were filed in Delaware. Why Delaware? Because Delaware is the so-called first state. My name is Dred Scott. I sued the United States to free myself and my family, the case that broke America and led to the Civil War. The United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, the legislative branch, Section 2, the House, representatives and direct taxing shall be appropriated among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bond to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, and three-fifth persons. Who are the three-fifth persons? Do you know? I give you a hint. It's you. And it says the previous sentence in this parentheses was modified by the 14th Amendment, Section 2. I guess it would have been if the 14th Amendment was fully ratified, which it wasn't. So therefore, they leave you in lingo as being three-fifth person, which they already told you that because you're a second-class citizen still fighting for rights to vote every 25 years or so. According to Article 1, Section 2, Constitution for the United States of America, it states that we Indians, those of African descent, Negroes, etc., are classified as three-fifth person of or three-fifth of a human being, thus subhuman. This is a Masonic code, one sight and hearing, listening, and deaf, dumb, and blind may be returned to be a five-fifth or one whole person again. How do you return yourself to becoming a whole person? I know you declare yourself as a whole person in full life, no longer civilist more tools. You state that you are. You give notice, not begging. You demanding. You're not begging. I don't know where we get this stupid ideology that if you take documents to the same place where they already got documents on your dumb ass at, that all of a sudden you begging. Well, you still got your birth certificate at the Register of Deeds office. Are you begging to go and get your birth certificate from them that your mama sold your dumb ass in on and made you award to the state? Are you doing that? Are you going and go get it? Are you going down to the white man's office and protesting that you don't want to be called African American or Black or Negro on your birth certificate? Are you fighting that? No, but you have your dumb ass out on the streets protesting, talking about we shall overcome. Well, the 3/5 clause of the United States Constitution declares that the slave name, Black, Negro, and colored person or people are as identifications or marks of the United States properties. In other words, chattel property. The 13th Amendment abolishes these slave labels and their slave masters. At least that's what it's supposed to, but yet we still using them today. They're on the birth certificates, thus making the 14th and the 15th Amendment as ex post facto law to the 13th Amendment. All 14th Amendment citizens, including unproclaimed and unrecognized Moors of Amexem, Moorish Americans, American sovereigns, or properties of corporate United States of America. This Masonic code goes back to the three monkeys: see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. And oftentimes a monkey is seen with a fez or tall bush on his head, clapping cymbals. It is all a form of shrine of Masonic mockery, as the KKK itself are Masons, and they wear the garb of the Moors of Spain. So hence they're terrorizing you with your own shit. At the 32nd and 33rd degree in said Freemasonry, a person is now able to join the shrine. Nowadays it's going down to a third degree, where a shrine is say Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, and etc. No, there is actually only 2 cents oftentimes. If a person is deaf, then they are also mute, meaning that they cannot speak or speak very well and have to learn sign language to express oneself. That is, Gohim is also the word used in Masonry referring to the uninitiated. Black's Law Dictionary Deluxe. There's nothing worse than a slave with an ego. A lot of these people out here on YouTube land, which has now become fantasy land, but they're not teaching no real shit, or they got gimmicks, and our people fall for gimmicks. They love sensationalism. They love a good Negro to hock and hack and cough on them. They love all of that. But there's nothing worse than a slave with an ego. I told Brother Seti that in the debate back in 2009, nearly 10 years ago, because Negroes love to have ego and claim to know some shit and don't know a motherfucking thing except how to continue being property of the pale devil. Slave, a person who is wholly subject to the will of another, one who has no freedom of action, but whose person and services are wholly under the control of another, one who is under the power of a master and who belongs to him. So the master may sell and dispose of his person, of his industry, of his labor without him being able to do anything, have anything, or acquire anything, but what must belong to his master. This is Civil Codes, Louisiana, 1838, Article 35, Black Sludge Exchange, 4th edition. So, when you seeing our brothers and sisters being shot up on the streets, and not saying that you have to have just paperwork, because we know that what you have in your mouth, in your mind, becomes the trigger or the tools, and also even more so what is in your hand, because the pen is mightier than the sword. We know that your truth must be expressed in the form of an affidavit. Of course, you might not have time to pull out the affidavit if they pulling out their guns, but if you say the right thing, that might make them stop. All right, it might make them stop. So this right here shows you that we still are under a master-slave relationship with the Albion and those in political power. The police can come and do what they will and dispose of his or her person, of his industry, of his labor, without being able to do anything. What is the remedy? Notice that you have not gotten any remedy for any of these shootings. Was there remedy for the 17-year-old who was shot and killed in Florida? Was there remedy for Michael Brown family? Was there remedy? No, there was no remedy. In fact, the same jackass lawyer that has gained popularity for being the lawyer for all of these people that have passed form and that was assassinated and killed by the police, dehumanized by the police. He's gained fame, but yet has not one goddamn court case. In other words, haven't gotten none of the families any money back or reparations, which means to restore, to repair. No money back. As if you can't bring back the life anyway, but at least there has to be some type of compensation for taking someone away from you who could have possibly brought in some funds, helped out. But here, chattel, an article of personal property, any species of property not amounting to freehold or fee in land. The term chattel is a more comprehensive one than goods, as it includes animated as well as inanimated property. Black Sludge Dictionary, 1st edition. So we have been labeled in so many ways as chattel property, because we have chattel instruments or chattel paper, which means a record or records that evidence both a monetary obligation and a security interest in specific goods. Now, the monetary obligation is by way of your birth certificate, hence the reason why it's a bond. And the security interest in specific goods is your social security card. It's called Social Security. Security, you get it? Security, interest in Pacific goods, security, Social Security. Oh, okay. The birth certificate and the Social Security cards are forms of chattel paper. Before, in slavery, some of our ancestors was branded. Now we are tracked and tagged. Most carry these documents with us at all times with no superior claim of lien on them. So it's not the fact that you just have them. The fact is that you have not claimed them and lien them. In particular, the numbers that's on there, the state file number, the bond number on the birth certificate, the employee's identification number on the front of the Social Security card, and the prepaid levy bond number, which is the IMF number on the back. You have not liened those. And the way in order to lien those, it can be done so by a UCC, which is also colorable. However, you can take those numbers from the UCC and put them within your trust. Take the trust, put within your estate. Take that and put within and tie back to the treaties. That is the method. But you have to learn land as well as water sciences. Because one foot of prophet, the left foot of Prophet Noble Drew Ali's is in the water, and the right foot is on the land. Meaning that he can do what? Or you need to do what? It means that you need to master both levels, amorality, which is called maritime law, as well as constitutional land law. It is essential that you master the whole planetary law system. Negroes would tell you, well, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the baby's supposed to be the UCC. Wait, hold up. And the treaty is the mama. Well, that's fine and dandy, but you master both. Because you have to master. Look, the laws that is in the Constitution state specifically that you have common sense law, common law, you have amorality law, and you have equity law. Master all three of those laws. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Mastering all three. All right? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to know as much information as possible, but you also have to know what is de facto and what is de jure. You need to know your historical information. You need to know which is exoteric, and you need to know the internal spiritual esoteric information. You need to know it all. All right, man do not survive on bread alone. All right, sometimes he needs some water. All right, most of the time he needs some water, especially if he's eating bread. All right, really what he needs is a green salad. All right, so I'm going to leave that here for today because we're traveling and we don't have enough time. We're lucky that we was able to get this little bit of time in order to do this class session. So we appreciate the library in Cleveland, Ohio. Indeed, we do. And as always, as we would say, continuing now for days, weeks, months, years to come, we're moving towards our most cherished goals of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves, happiness and joy, much more joy in our lives. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor in which we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. We have so much abundance and success in our life that we're able to help, share, and give to those along the way who are sincere. And we're moving closer towards the oneness of God and Goddess and the full release of our higher inner selves. Ashe. Peace. We out. Right on time. Babe.
$7 o'clock.